All right, guys, let's talk tents. We have 3 tents we're going to show you. Kind of been show you 3s of everything. Kind of a small, medium, and large tent. And let me show you. I've got them right down here. So let's take a look. So on the large side, we have the REI CoOp Quarter Dome 3. If you can see that right there. Weighs 4 pounds 1 ounce according to the label. We have the Kellty Horizon 2. It's a 2-person tent. This is supposedly a 3-person tent. And let's see if I can see the weight on here somewhere. It says it is 4 pounds 5 ounces, so it's a little bit heavier than the 3-person tent. And then we have the Flashlight 1 FL. And I believe this is like 1 pound. Let's see if it's got it in here. I think it's like 1.5 pounds, but for right now, let's see. Oh, maybe it's on here. Let's take a look. It is 1 pound 15 ounces, so almost 2 pounds. Actually, just an ounce under 2 pounds. So 2, 4, 4. And we're gonna set all these up and take a look at them and see what we like the best and what we should take on the Wyoming Backcountry Discovery Route. Normally I take the small one, and if I show you this really quick, I take the poles out of the little thing here because they're separate. If I can get them off of here, here we go. And then I can stick this, which is now less than a pound. I stick that in my backpack. And I stick this on the side, or I can stick it in my luggage. That becomes really small and lightweight. So you can even, if this was a 2-person tent, you could split it up, but it's a 1-person tent for sure. This is what I normally take. I took this one last time, and this one is a brand new tent for me. So let's set them up and see what they're like. All right, guys, this is my new tent, which the newest one, REI's CoOp Quarter Dome 3. So a 3-person tent, still pretty small when you took a look at the comparison of the other ones. It's the biggest one that I would attempt bringing on a motorcycle trip, but let's go ahead and set it up. I've never set this thing up. It still has a tag on it. How much was it? No price. It was priceless. I don't remember. I know I got it with the REI deal that was out. I think they give you that 20% off your membership time, so we'll check that out. Let me set it up now. All right, let's see how this thing goes. I couldn't figure out whether that part was a tent or that part was a tent, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's it, because it's got all that mesh. Pretty easy to unpack. Both of them weigh about the same amount, and then all the tent poles seem to be color-coded, so that made it easy. So that was pretty quick. I think pretty easy. Oh, I didn't connect this one. So those are little snap things like that. I don't know if I can do that with one hand or not. Probably not. But those little snaps go along there. So, and it's all color coded. And so you've got the orange on this side, blue over the top, and on this side it was relatively simple to set up. And it's freestanding, so I can just set it up anywhere. So I set it up on the patio. And it's a pretty good size. That is a 3-person tent. That's probably a good 2-person tent. It'll be great for me. Let me set that thing up, and I'm going to put the fly on it. We'll see how long it takes me to get the fly on there. And let's check that out. I'll set you guys back up over here. See how long that takes for me. If it were sunny, I'd just leave it like that. That would be awesome. But getting this on there is going to be better for rain. All right, so that seemed pretty simple. It looks like I have it inside out, but so it'll be a lot easier for me to put it right side. You can tell it's totally inside out, and these little things go on all that. So I put it totally inside out. Let's do it again. So glad I set it up beforehand because it was so easy to put that on inside out. And now that it's right side in, much better. All right, guys, so I got that turned right side out now. So now you can see the zippers actually have a little screen here. You'll guy out these little lines here to You have to actually put those into the ground, so you need the stakes to do that. Otherwise, the tent is freestanding. Although if it were raining, you would definitely want to have these things, stakes, for those to hold it out. A couple of air vents here. You face that into the wind if it's hot, away from the wind if it's going to be cold and raining. Of course, if it's hot, you might want the whole thing open because it had all those great vents. It'd be like a big skylight up front, up top. Let's take a look. This tent looks like inside. And what do we got? It looks pretty good size, guys. It's pretty good. I noticed when I was looking in here, it actually, so the rain, not the rain fly, let me get this in here, sorry. There we go. So one of the things I was noticing, all this screen is really cool, and for some reason, there's a little zipper here. I wonder what that's for. I have no idea, but there is a zipper in the ceiling. Right there. Zipper. For some reason. Maybe somebody can tell me what that zipper's for. Little tiny pockets here. Store your little things. And on the other side, there's some pockets in the sides. I kind of like the pockets because you have a place to put maybe your charger, a flashlight, a cell phone. Plenty of place to sleep. At least for one, it's going to be perfect. Two would actually be just fine. There's no way 3 people in this tent, but it's plenty long. I'm 6 foot, and I've got about 3 inches at the top, about 4 or 5 inches at the bottom, something like that maybe. I don't know. That's what it seems like. Anyway, it's super nice. I like it. Pretty lightweight for the size of this tent. And then with it open, I'll be able to have a skylight. I'll be able to see all the stars. It'll be awesome. All right, let's see what it takes to take this thing down. I was actually a little nervous here taking this apart. I'm thinking, gosh, this is a lot of stuff to go back in that little bag. And I'm thinking, is it really going to fit? Am I going to be able to get the poles back together? And actually, it went pretty easily. A lot of poles, but they're super lightweight. They all fold up. They have bungees on it. And then I was able just to kind of stack this thing up like that, roll the fly up, and then just roll them both up together, and it worked out perfect. Now let's get to that Sierra Designs. This is the smallest one, so I've set this up a ton of times. It should go pretty simple, although I guess it's been a little while because I'm trying to put the poles on the wrong side of the tent, which is so funny. You put the little poles in there, and then guy those out, and then put the big pole out at the back. All right, guys, I set up the small little tent. This is the smallest one you saw. I forgot which way things went because I haven't set it up in a little bit of time. So it has one door. The door's on the other side, but this is not a freestanding tent, so it has to be staked down first, and then you start putting the poles up. These are 2 long poles. You could use hiking poles instead if you were backpacking, but it comes with the poles. So for motorcycle use, you need to bring the little poles. And the back has the pole assembly, and then you stake out the sides to pull that together. And you do is you pull this out as well with another stake, and this one, which is a kind of a flap, can be connected. Oh, you can't see that. Here we go. This one right here can be connected to this same guide post here. If I can get it out there. Here we go. I just connect it here, and then I can pull that tight. We've got kind of a little door opening thing here, and if we look inside, this is the little flap, so you've got a little place to put your boots or whatever right there. And then inside, let's take a look inside, because this, just to be honest, it's a pretty small tent, but holds up really well in all conditions. It's pretty amazing. Rain, snow, wind, it all does pretty good. But take a look in here, it's pretty small. And take a look, you got headroom to kind of sit up. Well, you can sit up in here, and just enough room to lay down, but really no room for your gear. What I'll end up doing is laying in here and then set like some gear on the side there, and then some gear out here. But you do have to leave your boots outside, and most of your gear outside. So the only drawbacks really on this one is can't fit all your gear in, but it's lightweight and pretty small. Take a look at that again. Super lightweight. If you set it into the wind this way, the wind completely stays out of your tent. If you put it on the side, you can close these windows up and you can pull the thing really tight so it doesn't flap around in the wind. That works really well. And that is this tent here, which is the Flashlight 1FL, one for one person. What season? It says it is a 3-season tent, and I believe that. It works perfectly. And it's super lightweight, so that's pretty awesome. Let's get on to our next tent. All right, let's get the Sierra Designs tent folded up and put away. Basically, it's super easy. It fits in the pack pretty easy, but getting the air out of it is the hardest part because it is waterproof and it's one piece. But it goes right back in, no problem. Now let's get to that Kellty. We'll set that one up. This is the 2-person Kellty, and it sets up really easy as well, as you're going to see. And make quick work of this, and we'll take a look at it. This one does have color-coded poles as well. All right, guys, so that's the Kellty, and it is a freestanding tent. I was thinking this one was not, but you can't, without the stakes, you can't put in this front piece. I'll show you that here in a second, but this is the rainfly here. All the stakes, all the posts are color-coded, so color-coded with these little bottom straps that are black, so black to black, and then orange to orange. And then you pull in the rainfly over the top of it. And then you just pull it tight. And then the front, we've got these zippers. Sorry, it's gonna take a second. Okay, so I've opened the door up. And one of the cool things is if you have some other poles around, like if you're backpacking, you can pull these out. You've got yourself a little tarp for your entryway. And that's pretty cool. The door opens from the front, and then you have lots of space for one person in this tent. It's a good amount of room for one person, and you can sit up in here. 6 foot tall, and I still have room in here to sit up and change, and a little bit of room if it's just one person for your gear. You'd be hard pressed to get 2 people in this tent. If you're, say, 5'4", something like that, about 80 pounds, or truly in love with your partner, you can fit in here with 2 people, but it's really one person tent, even though it says 2. So some negative things about this, I mean, positive and negative. One, great weather tent. The top has a good skylight to be able to see out of when the fly is off. With it on and the wind buffeting, it becomes a pretty noisy tent. Even if you stake this thing down as much as you can, it's in wind, it gets really, really noisy, and I'll show you what happens. And that is that these side pieces, which just barely cover the tent here, the windows, flap around like crazy because there's nothing that hold these back, and they just sit there and flap, 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 flap. You can tighten these things down as much as you want, but it'll still flap like crazy. So you have to make sure the wind's headed this direction on the tent. If not, it'll come underneath this and fill the whole tent with air. And if it's cold out, you'll freeze. It'll really get cold. If it's raining, what can happen, I'll put that down, is these things can start moving in a lot of wind and rain, and they'll start letting rain in the side here. So it is barely rainproof tent. You know, if it's a downpour and it's straight down, you'd be just fine. If there's a lot of wind and rain, you may get wet. But coolest factor, it's super fun to set up, easy, and I love how if you had a couple extra poles that you can have a little tarp there to sit on in your chair, or sit under in your chair, which is super cool. Let's take it down and see what that's all about. This one goes together really easy because it flat packs in that, and that's great for your panniers as well because it can just slide straight into your pannier without taking up a bulky amount of space. Let's take a look. So the Kellty goes away pretty easily. It packs real quickly, packs up fast. It's probably one of the fastest ones to pack up of any tent. So if you're doing competition of who's going to get their camp put away first, get that Kellty because it's super quick. And it also flat packs, which makes it very convenient. All right, guys, that is our tent series of 3 tents, 3 ideas, 3 possibilities for taking tents. As you see behind me, I have left the tents, actually unpacked them again. And this will be a sort of, you got to know that if you set up your tents on a lawn, that they're gonna get damp, even if the weather is nice and sunny, that moisture is gonna permeate through the entire tent. If you leave it there for 24 hours, your entire tent's gonna be wet, and you need to lay them out. If you don't lay them out, all the waterproof coatings will disintegrate inside the bag and destroy the bag within about 3 months. So not the bag, but the tent, and the tent's waterproof lining. I did that to my North Face, and that's history now. So always make sure you can dry out your tent. If it's raining, go ahead and pack it up. Just don't leave it in there for 3 months. You can leave it in there for a couple of days. Just a day, probably just be fine. And then anytime you can, air it out and dry it out. I think mental notes or little notes about all the different tents. We had the CoOp quarter dome. That tent looks really cool. Of course, I've never used it before. It looked pretty, actually, I said I never set that up. It actually went up pretty easy. The Kellty, super easy to set up, color coded, as well as the small light, I keep forgetting what it's called. It is the Flashlight 1 FL. That's Sierra Designs. That's super easy to set up as well. It's just not a freestanding tent, so you're gonna have to make sure you're not camping. In some campgrounds it's really tough because it's so hard packed, or there's just nowhere to set up your tent. You can't do it in a parking lot, or on like granite slabs, things like that. Need some dirt so you can put in those stakes. The Kellty can freestand, but you do want some stakes to tighten it up if there's going to be any wind at all. My favorite tents out of all these, I love this little Sierra Designs tent. That's got to be one of my favorite all-time tents because it's so light. It's my backpacking tent. Absolutely love it. Solid, just 1-person tent, so you need a place to put your stuff if it's raining. I have shoved my backpack up in that one spot that I was showing you, so that can work in a pinch, but my backpack's pretty waterproof, so that worked out. I think the quarter dome is going to be awesome, and I think that's what I will take on the trip. It's 4 pounds, so it's double the weight of that, but I think it'll be worth it to have all my gear in there and a lot of extra room, and I can sit up real easily in that tent to be changing in case we get some really bad weather. Cheers, I hope you enjoyed. Hit that like button if you wouldn't mind. Make a little a note like, hey, saw it, liked it, or hated it. And then subscribe if you like.